Welcome to the Grit, Grow, Rise podcast. I am so excited to welcome Anna today. Anna is a spiritual mindset coach and light language channel. Welcome, Anna. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited too. Let's dive in.
I am curious, was there a point in your journey where things felt really out of alignment for you and you felt your soul calling you to go after a big dream? And what was that process like?
Totally, totally. I feel like it wasn't that classical spiritual awakening that I thought it would be, like this moment where everything is like falling out of place and then coming back on. For me, it was more of a gradual process, but it began the moment I met my now husband. There was preparation time the 5 years before, which I didn't realize, where things came back to me that I had in childhood, like the way I see auras or like sacred geometry, that came back very easily. I wasn't knowing what I was going to do with it, but then I met my husband and everything was like falling out of place, totally out of alignment. It was like the biggest chaos. And then we had our son, and everything was still chaotic. Through these 3 years, there was so much resettling and so much challenges and darkness, and the most like challenging time ever faced. Then it suddenly hit. I was quite shaken and felt burnout and overwhelmed and everything you can imagine with physical challenges. And yeah, it took quite a while to wrap my head around and actually surrender to the process. We had lots of things to work out. We've lost a home that we're living in. I was not sure where I want to go. I was for the first time not stable within myself. So I was totally overwhelmed with the new kid and with myself and with the new relationship. And I think the universe led me to this because it knew I need to like really break before the awakening could come in the way that it came. And so that's why I said surrender, because at one point I couldn't hold it anymore and said like, I know it was the moment. I had such severe heart pain, really, really bad, that I thought I was going to die. And so I said to my husband, like, I don't know if I'm waking up tomorrow. And that was the moment where I totally surrendered and said like, okay, whatever happens, happens, and it's fine the way it is. And from there on, like things came back together.
When we get to these breaking points where it feels like everything's chaotic and we get to that point of surrender where it's like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. Do you have something that you connect with in those moments that brings you back home to yourself? I know I'm in like that space right now with having a newborn and I'm remarried. And so I feel like there's a lot of moms who can relate, especially after having kids. It's like this cocoon phase.
Yeah, I wish I would have known what I know now. So back then it was more like a trial and error thing. And I did tap into my intuitive gifts, but not focused as I do now. So what I would do now, or what I am doing now whenever something comes up that is overwhelming, which is constantly the case, is I do connect to the universe. And I luckily have this ability to like see light and see energy, which makes it easier for me. But nonetheless, all my clients who don't see it can do it as well. I really surrender to the universe and ask the universe not for help in the way that I've been raised in like Catholic church to say like, oh, please God, take all my problems away. Not in that kind of way, but I ask the universe to help me expand myself in a way that I can hold it. And that was a big game changer for me. So normally I do go into a quite one-on-one conversation with the universe, God, however you want to call it, normally on a walk or in a like environment that is soothing for me. And I directly ask, I speak to the universe like I speak to you now, and really connect and see what answers come. And that gives me an immense feeling of relief and also of empowerment. So that is what I would say to everyone who's feeling overwhelmed, like go in directly ask for help, because from the standpoint I have, help is always given to you if you ask for it, but not in a way that you try to manipulate the universe into giving you everything you want for like, no exchange, but you need to be willing to change or to transform. So there is parts of you that might be expand or that might be need to be open to a different way of doing things.
I saw a post of yours about procrastination, and you said something along the lines of the universe giving you what you're ready for. And when we're procrastinating, we're telling the universe, I'm already overwhelmed with what I have now. Can you elaborate on that? Because I feel like it ties into what you just shared as well.
Yeah, yeah, that was a big one because I was a big procrastinator, and it always was like this feeling of, oh, I can't handle that. And even with the beautiful things, and I have so many women who have the same, that especially as mothers, there's so much going on, and then there's all these emails and all these to-do lists, and you kind of start things but don't finish them, and you're so overwhelmed that it's kind of like, okay, I'll do that later when I have time, which we normally never have. So what I found is what you just said, like this, if I'm not finishing things, or if I feel like they are not aligned anymore, really cross them off my list and say, okay, that is not aligned anymore. It's fine. I don't need to finish it just for the finishing, but I need to be clear if I want that energy in my life. And if I'm having it on hold in procrastination, then what I feel is that the universe is thinking like, okay, she wants to be, I don't know, rich or financially free, but she's not looking at her finances. She's overspending. She doesn't have track of what she's giving to. She doesn't want to look at her bank account. How can I give her more when she's not able to handle what she has right now? So I think that's quite a tangible example for saying like, okay, what do I want? Who do I need to become to hold that financial freedom? I might be like, need to have a different relationship with money, or get my finances in an overview, whatever it is. But we need to consciously choose to finish the things that have something to do with what we desire, and everything else we can cross off the list, or we can give it to the universe and say like, okay, universe, these points on my to-do list that are yours to take care of, I don't need to take care of them, so you can release them either way. But you need to kind of release them so the universe knows you can handle it, and then they can give you more of what you desire.
A lot of us as humans, we're told we don't have enough time. It's like this pressure to do things on this time frame. And so I feel like this also ties into a limiting belief that I see a common theme of is not feeling like we are enough. I loved how you also mentioned who we need to become in order to have the life that we desire or manifest what we're wanting, whether it's financial freedom or a business or expansion in a certain area. What are some tangible things to help people move into that trust of feeling like there is enough time, that they are enough, and that they are ready for what it is that they are wanting?
That's really beautiful set of questions. And I think like so important for so many people, so many women. What I feel is one of the most important question is like, the first one is, why do you want that? Because normally there is some portion of a fake dream, I would call it. So what I mean by that is so many people think they want something, but if you actually check in with your heart, which surprisingly not everyone does, then it's actually not your dream. It's actually does not have to do with your soul's purpose. It's more of a pre-programmed, to be happy in life, you need to be successful, have a spouse and a kid and house, like name a classical one. But if we really check in, then the answer might be that or might not be that. And so the first one is like, what do you really want? What is you? And it doesn't have to be the logical, intellectualized, what can I do? Or what do I think I can achieve? It's more like a, what do I want in life? How do I want to feel? So that's the first question. And then we look at the area that we feel stuck in, that could be like the finances, because we touched on them before, or a relationship that has or hasn't manifested in the way that we want. And then normally there are some big contradicting beliefs. It's not so much about like this, you need to release them as fast as you possibly can. It's more unearthing them before you actually work with them. Maybe on one hand, you have that desire to be in a beautiful relationship and have those kids and that family. And on the other hand, you have a big desire of being free, traveling and going out with your girls and partying or whatever. And if they're both strong, then they're interlocking, and you're you're sending mixed signals to the universe. So those two are the first two I would always look at. And Normally, there is a stuck area in life everywhere, and it ties back to these feelings of, can I hold that? Am I worthy of that? Or are there these contradicting beliefs?
That is a theme that I've gone through is wanting to balance two very different aspects. And I love that you mentioned coming back to your heart and what your heart truly desires, because I feel like a lot of us are stuck in these cycles where we don't even realize we're doing things that we think that other people expect us or want from us to reach a certain level of success or happiness. And when we come back to ourselves, you talked about the feeling, what will make me feel happiest, what feels most in alignment for me. When we're in alignment, that's what's in alignment for everyone else around us. Modern society has it flipped. We're taught to look at what is best for everyone else before ourselves. On the form that you filled out, you said not trying to get through our limiting beliefs as fast as you can, but using them as a roadmap back to our soul. And then you talked about the one that you had when you show up as yourself and for
Mhm.
yourself, that you had this fear that people would reject or leave you. And then what you had transformed that into was that sharing your truth in your own unique way is what makes you magnetic and draws in all the beautiful things you're meant to experience on your soul journey. What do you feel led to share about that?
Mm. There's normally this one big limiting beliefs, and everything else is like a fraction of it. Mine was the fear of rejection. When I found that, everything clicked. And I was taught if there is something coming up, if there is a block, then you need to work through that and get rid of it as fast as you can. It's like the classical societal paradigm that we all have. Oh, there's a mistake, you need to correct. And what I found is that it's so much doubling down on that these limiting beliefs you had because you needed them. They have protected you. So if you don't think of them as the enemy that is keeping you from everything you desire to have, but you see them as a part of you or a part of the universe, however you want to call it, that kept you safe when you couldn't handle more. And the moment that I made that shift was like a big feeling of relief. There's like this sigh of relief, like, oh, okay, God, I don't have to beat myself up for that. I don't have to be angry or in victim mode. But there was actually a reason for it. And that I feel gives us immense power if we realize it's not happening to us. This is for us. I love working with these limiting beliefs and not trying to get rid of them and really seeing where is the treasure in there. Because normally, what limits you or what makes you the most pain is the way we need to look at. And normally there's the biggest gift. I had this feeling of rejection. So what I did my whole life is shy away. I was so shy. I never talked to anyone because I just thought I couldn't. And when I then needed to do my spiritual journey and needed to be a coach because it was like this deep push, I felt so insecure, and it was like, no, I will never go on video. I will never go on Instagram. I won't show myself because of this fear of rejection that I've brought from past lives. And it took me so long to overcome that. But the moment I did, there was a relief that I've never felt before. So the more I do it, the more I feel aligned with myself. And that's for everyone I've ever worked with. The moment that we embrace this pain and don't try to push it away, things just open up.
Thank you for sharing that. I love how you said the part about not rejecting these parts of us. Sometimes people will have us feel like we have to get rid of those things. At some point, it was a protection for us, and we developed that part of our personality to keep ourselves safe, or that's what we felt we needed to keep us safe. And then when we do integrate that, I feel like we find the safety in being our authentic self and not feeling like we have to feel shame or guilt for having these parts of ourself, and we're able to find more wholeness and authenticity in our expression. Coming back to your heart's desires and asking people what's most in alignment with their heart, is there a dream that you feel led to share that is your vision and how you're bridging that with what you're doing now? What is your big why and the dream that your heart has that feels really lit up and in alignment for you?
That's a big one. And it's always changing. So it took me a long time to really embraced that dream because I felt it was so big that you could never. But I have embraced it at a certain point. It's really important to dream, even if it's really big and you think like, okay, well. So one of the parts that I really dream about often, and that was shown to me in dreams actually quite a lot of times, it's like imagine a world where meditation and energy work is taught in schools where the children learn that from an early age. That goes a bit off topic to what I'm doing, but I felt like I need to bridge from the adulthood to the children because I'm not a teacher and I didn't feel called to do it that way. For me, the like big why is more of the next generation having tools that I wish we had, that I wish I had to navigate life, basically. It isn't even about spiritual awakening. It's about like we are in this big shift anyways, but to have more of these tools and to not be programmed so hard by society that when we matured, we kind of need to decondition from all that old stuff to remember ourselves, but to yes, everyone will have challenges. Of course, you cannot raise a kid without challenges, and it's totally fine, but it's more of their own. It's not something that was layered on top. You touched upon it before, the way we have been raised to say like, we need to be the good girls and nourish everyone else before we take care of our own. That is a big one. And I feel it's this big vision of seeing kids raised in a different way and society interact in a different way. And how I bridge that to what I'm doing is with the light language and with this like very intangible energy work that I'm doing, kids respond really well to that. But I would love to have the parents or the generation we are in understand and access that as well. So I felt drawn to work with women who have or have not yet kids to see how we can embrace this feminine, more flowy way of living. And however we do it, connect with our heart, connect with our soul, and operate from there and like kind of bridge from the logical, you need to decide everything based on logic, coming back to the heart. And then I feel like the rest is falling into place more easy. So that's why what I've wanted to build and what I'm building now is like a coaching that wants to empower people and that gives them back this remembrance that the universe is always supportive. And from there on, I think everything else can ripple out of that.
There was so many amazing things to what you just said. So I was a teacher for 7 years, and a big reason why I left the classroom was because I started waking up to how the modern school system is boxing children in. And I feel like there's so much programming that's going on that's disconnecting them from tapping into their natural spiritual gifts like light language. And from a young age, children are taught that there's one answer to the question, and you have to like learn these lessons and then take the test and see if you mastered it. And it's so backwards to how life is. Like life gives us the test and then we learn the lesson. There were so many kids, especially after the pandemic, that were really struggling emotionally. And there was only so much I could do as a teacher in the classroom. And so this is something that I've become very passionate about was first I needed to learn how to work with my own emotions because I had been suppressing them. And so I love that you touched on being able to envision a society that teaches kids how to connect with themselves and to find that balance between the logical mind and then the heart connection and being able to really tap into their natural gifts because as children they're so tuned in to those gifts and then at some point we start feeling like there's something wrong with us and we start hiding it away. And so this is leading into what I want to talk about next is your light language. And you shared on your Instagram how it spontaneously was activated when you were listening to something. And you mentioned it being a remembrance. Do you want to tell me more about how that happened and how you use your light language now with clients?
Yeah, yeah. So it was really interesting. I wasn't searching for anything, but there is that girl, Heather, that I've listened to for a few years, and I loved her energy and her lightheartedness, her kindness, and she has big wisdom she holds. And then there was one of her videos where she was doing a short light language activation, and I was felt drawn to that, listened to that, and there was this moment of, I can best describe it as like zooming out, where I felt like everything was zooming out and everything was going on pause. And that was like really short, and I was like, okay, what is it? And afterwards, I felt I understand what she said differently. Of course, light language, like for those who haven't heard of it, is like a soul language. So there's not a word of word translation, and everyone who speaks it differently. So logically, you cannot explain, and that's like a challenge for many people, including me, because I've been growing up using logic a lot to not feel my feelings so much. So logically, it's not a translation you can make, but I heard that and I felt it, and I'm very visual. So I've seen lots of image in a different way than I have ever before. And from that point on, I felt like that these images, kind of like blocks of information or blocks of energy, came down to me. And it took a while to decode. So I was first able to speak, not knowing what it was about, which sounds a bit like kids who play and they just make their own imaginative language. And I was feeling like, okay, is that even real, or am I just making it up? You know, there was this logic kicking and saying, like, what are you doing? But over time, I felt that I can more tangibly grasp what is coming through. I started listening to these blocks that I downloaded, and what it was and what I'm now doing with clients is I channel these light languages on any topic. So it normally has like the basis of empowerment, but that could be on relationships or on health issues or on these racing thoughts that we have, these insecurities that we have. It could be guidance that is specific for the person to any topic they wish. So normally clients come to me with a certain issue or challenge. I record one or two light languages for them that they can listen to. And basically, what then comes up, I have some visions, I have some pictures, or often it's sacred geometry forms that come with this sound. And I share them with the clients. And then there comes this remembering where they say, like, ah, okay, that means that for me. And that is like helping me with that issue in a way that it comes from them. So what I do, it feels like a transmission of energy that it meant for that client. I deliver it in a way that they can maybe understand it better. So normally with the pictures that I'm sharing together with the there is the activation of a memory, or they can puzzle piece together some things that give them insights about their situation. And that is really powerful because what it does, it goes beyond logic. And it is not this like, okay, I need to work through this, what happened in the past, and that's why, blah, 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 blah. But it activates whatever wants to come through. And that's what I actually love about it, although it took me quite a while to get used to this way of communicating, because it is not a linear communication, or is not something that like we do now. It's not a question and answer thing. It's things coming through. They want to be said, they want to be communicated, and what happens then is up to the person and has nothing to do with me. So it's not a back and forth. It's more like I give it to them as a gift, and then they sit with it and realize that for them however they want, which I think is powerful because it goes back to yourself and your responsibility for your life and the way you handle things. But what it normally does is that it's spontaneously like activating an insight, or helping releasing a limiting belief, or even unearthing a belief that wasn't conscious before, so that then that person can work with it more.
Wow, that's so powerful. If you go to a doctor, they are so quick to give someone a pill that doesn't really help heal them. It's just masking the symptoms, usually adds more symptoms. With traditional therapy, it's like just talking about the details of the past. The piece that is missing from medicine and therapy is getting down to the root cause. It sounds like with the light language you do, it gets right down to the root cause to where they don't have to play out all the details of the trauma or the experience or whatever the block is. I like that it doesn't have to be a logical thing, talking
Mhm.
about the details or focusing so much on that. It's more of like the energetics and the transference of the healing without having to stay in the pain. You're able to help them move through that without having to like, relive the experience. I really like that you talked about the unearthing. Can you tell me what that means for you? Because you mentioned that more than once, and I feel like there's a really deep meaning to what you're explaining with the unearthing.
For me, that's like when things come up from the subconscious. And that could be, well, that could be your subconscious, something that you have like kind of pushed away or forgotten or internalized in whatever form and are not conscious, all these autopilot things that come to our surface when we talk about like the classical awakening, where you like realize things that you're doing that you haven't been realizing before. But what I also mean by that is it could be from the collective unconscious, it could be something that you have picked up that was not yours, like logically in this lifetime, there is nothing that could explain these feelings or these, yeah, maybe as anxiety is what often comes up. And also it could be unearthing from past lives. So it has many different layers to it, but what it shares in common is that there is no conscious realization before. It's remembering. For me, they come often in dreams. I had so many past life regressions through dreams that I haven't given any thought before, but then it dawned on me that there is a message in there, and that is an unearthing too. So even though not every dream has to be like a message from a past life or an unearthing, but it can be. And for me, it's really powerful because it tells you about the roots, which you mentioned just before. And this is getting to the root cause of a specific issue that you might or might not be aware before, but it's telling you something new that fits into, maybe not logically, but it fits into your current challenge or stuckness. And that is very, very powerful, but it doesn't have to be uncomfortable. And what you said before, like there is this like, stuffing down of pain in any form by classical medical approaches that we have, but it's all to not feel the pain because somehow we as a society have thought that pain is something that we cannot handle. And I disagree because normally pain goes away quite quickly if we embrace it and if we know where it comes from. Sometimes it doesn't have to be even painful. You can look at it from an observer standpoint and see like, oh, okay, well, that thing was challenging, but you don't have to always go through the pain like in classical therapy, go through the pain for a long time to relive every horrible memory that you might have had, but you can maybe touch on it and then say, okay, thank you, that the message is enough. I don't have to dig deep in there, but still I'm acknowledging it. So it's like a dance, but it doesn't have to be as painful as I feel many people expect it to be.
It's so interesting that you said it's like a dance because this week I had two different dreams with spiders, and one of the dreams, the spider was doing a dance, and you also talked about past life things. And my ancestors are from Italy, and my great grandma and great grandpa are the ones who came from Italy to America. And I've been really connecting with my great grandma. And I was guided to look up spider ritual dance. And I somehow came across this Italian dance that they used to do in the 1600s, where the person would start convulsing and dancing to get trauma out of their body. And they would just like, do the dance, they would play the music. It was the same rhythm over and over and over again. And then there'd be someone leading it and doing chanting, and the person would just shake and dance until the trauma was out of their body. And so I think that's one thing that you also talked about pain. And I feel like so many people are so afraid to feel pain. And so they'll end up numbing their emotions with addictions, whether it's alcohol or drugs or sex or whatever. They'll find something to numb just feeling their emotions. And I feel like that's one area that if people had more tools on how to sit with their emotions and feel it, or if they were tapping more into the spiritual gifts like light language or energy work and Reiki, healing doesn't have to be painful where you're suffering. It could be something like dancing or listening to light language, and that in itself is so healing. And I feel like it's reframing healing for people. It doesn't have to be like, taking a medication the rest of your life or talking about what happened when you were a kid, because sometimes it is past life. We might have periods of depression and it might not be something that actually happened in this lifetime. It could be pain that we're holding on to from a past life or generational trauma or something that we're healing in the collective too, because some people are here like transmuting dense energy. And so I love that you said just that it's okay to feel pain and there's that expression you have to feel it to heal it. And so I love that you have modalities that you are using to help people feel and reconnect back to their heart. Are there any other spiritual gifts that you have unearthed or uncovered on your journey besides light language?
Yes, yes. I mentioned, I don't know if it's an uncovering, but yeah, in a way, as a child, I was able to like very clearly see energy and like sacred geometry patterns. I've stuffed all that down during most of my childhood and early adulthood because like I realized you touched on it before, like we kind of realized at some certain point, like, okay, the others aren't doing that. They aren't talking about that. That must be weird. So I better not talk about it. And then it suddenly goes into the subconscious and you don't even remember. So I haven't remembered for such a long time that I can do it. What always was there is my really perfect ability to feel everything everyone else is feeling. So the moment I'm connecting to a person in a room or even mentally, I'm feeling what they're feeling. And that was like always quite energy draining for me. But what really helped me is when I let that in later on with the spiritual awakening or even in the preparation phase for that, this embracing of this as a gift, not as a challenge. And that goes back into the pain as well. This empathic feeling what others feel. So many people say, like, oh, I can't be around people, and they kind of contract to protect themselves. But for me, the big shift was when I realize that is a gift and I can help people with that. And there are energy works that tools, exercises that you can use to protect yourself in a way, not to like shield you from everything, but to keep your boundaries, your energetic boundaries intact. And over this realization, a lot of like intuitive energy work came to me. And I studied a bit with other intuitive energy work teachers, but it was everything felt so close to what I was remembering or was it what I was doing intuitively. So there were lots of like energy exercises. I'm doing lots of movements. There's this intuitive like way how I visualize, how I use my hands and my hand energy to heal people. And the way I come up with exercises, everything of this like felt like an unearthing. It doesn't felt like I'm trying to imagine something that could help. It was not a logical approach. It was more like I remembered things from a past life or from like a soul fragment that I had activated, and then therefore they came back, and I use them really every day for myself and also for my clients. And even if there is no name for it, is nonetheless potent. The people who are open enough and say like, okay, it doesn't have to be Reiki, it doesn't have to be like ACHF or whatever. They work really well with it, which is so beautiful for me to see because like I told you, I was very shy. For me, it was like, okay, can I try something that I've never tried on you before? But that came intuitively to me. See that other people are feeling it too. That for me is like the biggest confirmation that there is something to it.
Thank you for sharing that. So, what was coming up? So, we talked about how as a kid, we have these gifts that we are aware we have that maybe we notice other people don't have. And one limiting belief that I'm still working through is not feeling crazy. I have this fear that people are going to think I'm crazy when I fully step into who I am. Did you have a point
Yeah.
in your journey that you had to work through that as well? And how did you overcome that? For other people who are out here listening too, and they know that they have these gifts that they're meant to help other people, how
Mhm.
would you move through that energy and share your gifts regardless of whether or not anyone thinks you're crazy?
You touched on a big one. I'm working on that too still. I feel I've got a lot better than when I started. There were two things that come to my mind that helped me a lot. The first one is coming off of people pleasing, trying to be like people expect you thing, which was a quite well-known sentence of if you say yes to someone else, you might say no to yourself. And if you flip that, a yes to yourself might be a no to someone else. So just realizing I don't have to always do what others expect of me or to say yes to any suggestion, because in the moment I do, I might, and most often I did, say no to myself. That was really, really, really big shift to see, okay, but I want to feel good in myself. There was this motivation to like be authentic because I somehow realized that that is feeling much better than like trying to be like someone else. And this helped me really a lot on a logical way to understand that I can set boundaries in a loving way and therefore have a bit of distance energetically or however with people. That helped me a lot. And the second thing that really impacted me is if I have a desire to share, if I am uncovering something, a gift that I have, like you said, something that my soul is calling for, then there is someone who needs to hear that. I have that for reasons. What's in you is for you. And I translate that to these gifts I have them for myself, but I don't only have them for myself. So this motivation to share them, not to say like, oh, I want to make money or I want to be a well-known whatever coach, but to say like there are people out there, if I have that, who need to hear that. And if I'm not showing up because I feel too insecure or because I don't know, my hair is not looking good or whatever excuses we come up with, then someone else cannot have that piece of insight from me that they need. And this is often misunderstood as something that is an egocentric thing, but it is not. It is more of you offer your authentic expression, and there are people who exactly need that from you in that form you presented. And if you shy away from that, you're not fulfilling your purpose. And for me, that was a thing like, oh, okay, but I want to give this gift that I have to others so that they can empower themselves. And that helped me a lot. But still, there are certain areas in my life where it's really, really heavy for me to share. And there are certain areas where it's going more well the more I experience it and the more I try and the more I find the right words. That's another thing. I don't know how that is about you, but for me, it was about finding words and about like how to start a conversation about, well, did you know that I was seeing angels and speaking languages I don't even understand? Do you want to know something about that? You cannot start a conversation like this without having, a look that might be kind of weird. So what I would also say is like, find your own way of expressing these things so that this is so intangible, this work, so often that we don't have words for it yet. So you need to find your own language, and that helps a lot with authentically expressing what you're doing.
When we have these fears of being rejected or betraying others, what's really happening when we are leaning more into the people pleasing is this self-betrayal and rejecting parts of ourselves that we're called to share. And it's realizing it's for a bigger purpose than just ourselves. I like how you touched on the ego part too, because some people are like, oh, if I do what's best for me, then it's ego. You listening to your soul calling is what is needed for someone else as well. And by us holding back those gifts and not sharing those gifts, it's almost a disservice to the people that we are here to activate. Just like that one person that you were listening to, and whatever she shared activated your light language. You sharing your gifts is going to activate other people in different ways too. And I believe we all have these genetic blueprints and energetic signatures that activate different energies and different gifts in people, and it wakes them up. And you use the word unearthing. Something that I've been diving into is gene keys. Have you heard of this modality?
Yes. Studying human design and gene keys are super related. So
Yeah.
I haven't dived in very deep, but it is on my list, and I'm super excited to come to that point.
So that's something that I've been looking for the correlation too. So I started with astrology and then dove into human design, and then I came across gene keys. And you talked about these packets of information when you're talking about light language, and it was reminding me of gene keys because our DNA has different packets of information that's activated. And then right now with the solar energy too, with like Schumann resonance, different energetic waves, that's activating people's DNA. And so things like as simple as getting out in the sunlight can activate spontaneous past life things and gifts to awaken in people. And so everything that we all are doing is part of this grand tapestry that we're all weaving together. And I love that you are stepping into that. You talked about empowerment. Where can people connect with you if they're ready to step into their power and can use more support?
Thank you for saying that with the grid that we're building. I have that picture too, and it's just so beautiful. So what I normally do is I love working one-on-one with people because I think we're at a point on this awakening journey where, yeah, it's collective, but it's still very individual. And so many people still are not like aware of that, what you said, like going out into the sun or listening to something that can activate something. So that I feel it's very important to do that work and empower people one-on-one, because the most empowering thing I've ever found for myself and also for my clients is just being there and believing in them. They're like whole and complete and able to do anything they want, anything they desire. And most people can't hold that belief for themselves. So this one-on-one work is really important, to just be there with all the energetic, intuitive work that I do and believe in them until they believe it themselves. So the one-on-one work is very dear to my heart, but what I feel called to as well is because of what you said with the collective shift is I'm just right now doing I call it like an encyclopedia of tools. Because what we've talked about, like, there's so many different modalities and there's no wrong or no right, but I wished I would have had a lexicon that I could look up. Like, if I have this, what would be the thing that could help me? And so I'm building that video library of all the things that I've learned, all the things that I'm using for myself and my clients, so that you can see, like, okay, like if there's dizziness, then you could do that energy exercise. Or if you want to become aware of those contradicting, limiting beliefs, then there's this to do. And this is like very good for the logical orientated people who kind of want to go through it themselves, or kind of like pick and choose whatever fits right now. And that's the second thing that I'm really passionate about, that people can connect with very easily. And of course, like on Instagram, you've said it, there's lots of light language activations to just like get a feel for what is that and is that something for me. And Instagram is the best place to find me, but there's the link to my website in there as well. It's a beautiful journey.
I'm so excited to be a part of your journey and witness it. And coming back to the gene keys, do you know what your life's work is on your gene key, the top bubble?
I felt so called to dive into the gene keys, but I kind of held myself back. I haven't dived into it, but like I'm so curious about the human design part of it, like where you have the incarnation cross, and know about your soul's purpose from that standpoint on, which really helped me. But from the gene keys, no.
Okay. What is your human design type?
I'm a 1/3 sacral generator.
Okay. I love that. The gene keys are so closely tied in. I'm curious if you want to open up your chart and see what the top bubble is.
Yeah, would
I would
love
love
to.
to know, yeah, because I bet it is in alignment with what you're doing now. I would love to talk about that a little bit too. Do you already have your chart pulled up? Or...
I'm really interested to see like if that correlates lots with the human design or not.
Right.
I love these, like playing detective is what I call it.
Yes, it's like these little breadcrumbs, like you said, like
Yes,
playing detective
yes,
and coming
totally.
back to like who we are and
Yeah.
why we're here. And most of the time, it's things that we already know, and it's
Mhm.
just nice to have like that confirmation. Okay, here, let me go ahead and share the screen. So this gives a snapshot of your genius path, your love path, and then your prosperity path. So the part that I wanted to look at was your life's work. So This is also going to be this top bubble right here. This is the city, which is the essence. And for your life's work, it's ecstasy. The gift is delight, and then the shadow is seriousness. So, what I'm
Mhm.
getting from this is the more you can play with life and have fun with what you're doing and tap into that state of bliss, the more fulfilled your life's work is going to feel. And then up here, it has a brief description. So it says, what I'm here to do. Your outer reason for being alive is based on your ability to enjoy the journey of life rather than the destination. You may try many different experiences in life, and it is the variety of these experiences and the way you flow through them that determine how successful you will be. Success and failure are important issues for you, and you have to see that they are concepts related entirely to your attitude. You cannot fail if you make your life a goal. The activities that you become involved in may also have a strong emphasis on physicality. Neither are you here to live in isolation. You are such a rich being on so many levels, and this must be shared with those who love you.
Amazing. Oh, that's really beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing.
It's interesting because you talked about how as a kid you were really shy and kept to
Yeah.
yourself. And now
Isolation
you're,
part
yeah,
definitely is there.
you're not meant to be in isolation because you have so many beautiful gifts to share with others. I'm curious, what does success feel like for you?
It's interesting that you touch on that because I've never been called to do the classical success path. And money for a long time wasn't even of interest that much. Of course, to live, but it wasn't how I defined success. I have actually defined success long time through denying money, but saying yes to joy in my work, which was kind of giving me an imbalance because I had a beautiful job that I love, but I was not earning enough money to fully sustain myself in a laid back way. And that when I shifted it, I kept the joy part. And it's interesting that it's in there, the enjoying of the journey, because this is what I would define success with. This is what I'm doing now. I have a job where every day I think like, oh my God, this is my work. How amazing. It feels like my hobby. There is so much passion and lightheartedness in this way of working that it's not work anymore. And that is the definition of success. And there is a financial component because that's how we energy exchange in this world. But it is not this classical, I need to have X amount of money or X amount of followers or clients to feel successful.
Yeah, a lot of us think that we have to work really hard to earn money or that it has to be this difficult process. And that's something I'm working on reframing for myself too, is allowing myself to be open to receiving money in a way that feels really good to where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited I get paid to do this and allowing it to be easy because I have worked through some of the blocks and I still have some blocks around money with it having to be this difficult thing or like hard work, burnout to earn the type of money that I want. And I don't want it to be that way. I believe that I can create money in a way that brings a lot of joy as well. And knowing that money isn't necessary for us to feel joy, and also we can add a lot more joy to our lives by having money because it can pay for experiences and travel and provide us resources to help people in the way that we want to. And I feel like, yeah, it's just reframing money, looking at it like an energy, like you said. It's an energy exchange, and the work you do is so powerful. It makes sense that people have an energy exchange for that. Like, someone's not going to go to a doctor or a therapist or go to college and expect to get that for free, right? It's a service and there's a lot of value. It's the same with healing work and light language and different spiritual services. It's no different because the work that you are doing, it took time and it took practice and it took you doing the work and learning how to fine tune your craft in order to get to where you are. The other part, this is tied into your purpose of being as well. I feel a positive mantra that you could adopt could be, I get paid to exist. You don't have to do
Love that.
anything other than being you, and that is enough for you to get paid. I get paid to exist. I am worthy of whatever I want, the joy that I want, the life that I envision. And it's not like what you have to do, it's just who you have to become in order to show up as that. And
Yeah.
the more that you're stepping into that, like I am worthy of what I'm wanting and desiring and the life that I see myself living. If you can already see that reality in your mind's eye, that means it already exists on some realm or dimension. So owning it, like, yes, that is my reality and embodying it now.
That is so beautiful. That is so beautiful. Thank you. And yeah, I totally agree on the finances. I had these limiting beliefs too, and I still have some of those that it has to be hard work and that like if you're doing spiritual work, then you cannot ask for money or at least not for much money because then it's less valuable and whatever shitty beliefs we have been programmed with. And it's so interesting what comes up. But seeing it as an energy definitely helped me work through that because there needs to be some exchange. Sometimes I do exchanges that are like sometimes I do a swap and that feels equally good. So it doesn't have to be money, but sometimes it does have to be money because we need to pay our rent and stuff. But it can be, there needs to be an exchange. So it doesn't have to be for free, but there can be like a review or there can be whatever, an exchange of services. There are different forms, I think, of being valued in your work. And that is also something that ties into this bigger perspective of seeing how we can feel successful. I see a bit of a similarity to the human design. I yeah, there's some glimpses that I get in, but it's laid out in a different way, and that's really beautiful.
Yeah, what I started doing with my own chart. So, you know how on human design it has like the first number and then it has the
Mhm.
line?
Yeah.
These are really similar too. If you go to how to read your profile, and I could send you the link, and I can also send the PDF as well
Mhm.
to your
Oh, that would
email.
be amazing.
So if you go to how
Yes.
to read your profile, it
Hmm.
will show you those 11 spheres and it shows you the order how to read it. You'll start with the top one and then you'll go over to the right and then you'll go across to the left and then you'll go down to the bottom. And then there's
Hmm.
the Venus sequence, which is zigzagging up, and then there's a pearl sequence. So I like that this shows you the pathway. It's almost like a treasure map. Like, go to this, here's your
Totally.
first clue, here's your second. And then it
Amazing.
talks about the lines, just like human design, there's 6 lines. So this sphere right here is gene key 46. This whole thing has sacred geometry on it too. It breaks it down more. This is a science of luck, is what your life's work is. And over here, there's different codon rings and it has information. It ties into the I Ching and astrology
Yeah.
as well. There's definitely a lot of sacred geometry synchronicities. I
Oh,
definitely
how
resonate with
beautiful.
that too.
Yeah,
So,
totally. I actually never have been on the Gene Keys website because like I try
okay.
to, procrastination and keeping my focus on thing at a time. It's totally resonating.
I'm the same way too. I was like, okay, I still want to dive in more to human design. I want to go deeper.
Mm.
There's so many correlations that I found myself pulling up my human design and the gene keys. And then whatever I'm intuitively guided to on my human design chart, then I would look it up on the gene key. You have like a gate 20 on your
Mhm.
human design. You can
Yeah.
click on the gene key 20 and then
Mhm.
see how it correlates to the human design. There's definitely like so much here. They even have a free audio on the first one too. It's a 20-minute audio. So if you wanted to like, listen to that, but yeah, there's so much here. It's definitely something that I'm feeling led to explore. I'm glad that you already had heard about it too. So I
Yeah,
feel like there's something for both of us in human design and gene keys.
definitely. Thank you so much for sharing. That is the door opening for the Gene Key part. It's really resonating. So I feel it's maybe even a more detailed way of explaining some of the things that human design touches on from a different perspective, which is super interesting.
Yeah, looking at it at different lenses and then seeing what similarities pop up or where you're drawn to explore each day. It's super
Oh,
exciting.
I love life. There's so much to discover. It's
Right?
so beautiful
That's
every day
awesome.
to see what comes up. I think it's a beautiful way how the universe shows you. Maybe now you look into gene keys. Now it's the right time, you know?
It's so fun when we do say yes to life, no matter what it is. When I posted the thread on this podcast, I was not sure what was going to happen. And each person I talked to, it's like another piece to the puzzle clicks into place. I'm able to see common themes. And you saying yes to being on here has helped me learn so much too, and has opened my eyes to new perspectives. And so I just want to share my gratitude for you saying yes to being on the podcast today. Thank you for trusting me to be holding space for your story. And it's beautiful being able to connect with people in this way.
Thank you so much. I love this energy. You held space so beautiful, and there's this openness and there's this inspiredness that comes with it that I'm deeply grateful for. There's really such a beautiful energy to be in, and I'm so excited that you had so many responses on the podcast and that it's growing. So the grid that you're building is like getting, more connected. That is just so beautiful. So thank you, thank you,
Thank
thank you for
you.
having me, for sharing all your wisdom. It was such a lovely experience.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'm definitely working on the procrastination and
Let me know
reverse.
how
And
that
then I'm
goes.
like just trying to keep moving forward. Each time I take a step forward, it's like more limiting beliefs to work through or energies to embody. Or
I feel too that one of my teachers said, like, the more you grow, your opponent, he calls it the opponent, is growing too. So they always meet you where you are, which you could see as a sign of growth. But
Mhm.
yeah, there's always something coming up. And I feel it's the most important thing is to be loving with ourselves, even if we procrastinate and don't do the things we say we do. But it's the intention that matters so much more. So yeah, keeping that in mind, say that to myself as well is always a good thing to not beat ourselves up because life happens in a way that is beautiful arranged, even if we don't understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Mm.
something that was coming through too is the importance of celebrating when we do take a step forward or when we do make growth. And so I'm curious, how would you like to celebrate tonight? What's something that you can do to celebrate you saying yes to yourself and showing up and sharing your mission and dream and the amazing work you're doing with the collective? Something you can do to embody that ecstasy and joy in life today.
Mm. That is such a beautiful question. It's super late in here, so what came to my mind first is I love dancing in the dark. I think it's such a beautiful way to like release energy, but to also like get the joy. And I also love just laying on the floor and doing the thing that is the hardest for me, being really lazy, doing nothing, and just feeling the energy. So I think I'm doing a combination of both because that's nourishing all parts of me in their
Yeah.
different forms. And that is like such a beautiful way of integrating energies, which I would love to do because this was such a beautiful, beautiful, inspiring energy, and I wanna keep it.
That goes perfectly in alignment with your purpose too of being.
Thank you so much for coming back to that. I had it in mind, but it was like going backwards already. Being.
You're here to
How beautiful
be
is that?
you and enjoy your life.
I will, I will. I thank you so much for opening that Gene Keys page up for me.
Absolutely. I know sometimes I'll be like, oh, I'll check it out later. So I'm like, okay, we're gonna pull it up right
Now
now.
you're absolutely right. It's the the enemy, if you wish, is sometimes just as like I do it later. So the moment we start something, there's this momentum already coming in. But if you would have sent it to me and then look at it if you have time, then I might have found time in half a year or so, even though the interest is definitely there. But
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Well, thank
yeah,
you so much again. Enjoy your dancing and being, embodying all that joy. It's gonna magnetize even more joy to you.
I will. Thank you so much, and I wish you a beautiful time with your sweet
Thank
one. He
you. Yes.
has done so well. I'm really stunned.
He's
Oh
just
my
over
God.
here chilling.
Yeah, really good. He's having a good time, which is amazing. But that ties into the energy. You're relaxed, so why shouldn't he be?
Thank you. I try to be.
Yeah. God, have a beautiful day. Have a
You
beautiful
too.
Christmas time, and holiday. I hope
Thank
we
you.
speak
You as well.
soon.
I'm sending you so much love.